everyone, I'm Cornell. Welcome to my Blooming Bakes channel, and today I'm going to share my vanilla cupcake recipe with you. It's a really useful recipe because you can adjust it to make various variations on your flavours as well. So I'm going to start with my 4 top tips. Firstly, the secret to success for a cupcake recipe is know your cup size. Yes, ladies, it matters, size matters, and you need to know what the cup size is of your cupcake cases. I specialise in cupcake bouquets, and therefore I'm actually using a larger cupcake case, which is theoretically classed as a muffin case. This, I've got a little Halloween cupcake here, is a normal cupcake size, and you can see it is very much different. So depending on your cupcake case size, you might get more or less cupcakes from a recipe. So first step from me is know your cupcake size and know what cupcake size has been used in the recipe. Today I'm using muffin size cupcake cases. Secondly, you need to use room temperature butter. So your butter shouldn't be too cold, because if it's too cold it won't mix into your batter properly and you'll have chunks of butter sitting in your batter, and it won't mix properly, and it will melt in the oven but will just be a blob in your batter. It won't mix in properly. Similarly, if it is too runny and too hot and start melting, then you turn your butter into liquid, which is going to change your consistency of your cupcake as well, because we want our butter to be a solid ingredient in our batter. So that's my second tip, room temperature butter. You need to be able to squish the butter like that, but it shouldn't be melting yet. So squishable, not melting. Let me just wipe my fingers. Third tip I have for you today is invest in a little oven thermometer if you don't have one already. The temperature of your oven is extremely important, and although I can give you some guidelines about how to bake your cupcakes, it really very much depends on your oven, the different settings you've got available, and the inside temperature of your oven. If you think your oven is at the temperature of your external dial on your oven, think again, it often isn't. So invest in a little oven thermometer so that you know exactly how hot your oven is on the inside. It also depends where you place your cupcakes in the oven. So lower levels can be cooler, higher levels on racks can be hotter. So do play around and test your oven temperature. And then my fourth tip is, if you don't have one, invest in a kitchen scale. It is so important, since a lot of cake recipes rely on weight rather than cups. And definitely today's recipe is based on weights as well. So if you don't have a kitchen scale, invest in one. You get really nice space-saving scales like this one, which you literally slide into a cupboard like a book. Doesn't take a lot of space. It's not a high precision scale, but it does the job just fine. Perfect, so let's get started. For this recipe, we're going to need 4 main ingredients: flour, sugar, butter and eggs. And we're going to use the standard method of equal weights for your butter, your sugar and your flour. So let's pop this on the scale. I've already measured out my ingredients, but we'll just double check. So firstly, we've got 150 grams of self-raising flour. Next, 150 grams of caster sugar. This is really important to use caster sugar and not granulated sugar. If you use granulated sugar in your mix, it might be too rough and it won't necessarily dissolve as well as caster sugar. So 150 grams of caster sugar. 150 grams of room temperature butter. and we're going to add 2 eggs. Perfect. Just a pinch of salt, literally just a pinch. A quarter of a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda, or baking soda if you're in the US. And the next step is to mix this. I like to mix it for about 30 seconds, just give it a little scrape around the sides, and then another about 30 seconds. And you'll see at the end of about a minute, your batter would have slightly changed in color and gone lighter as well. So let's pop that in the mixer. I'm using a Kenwood stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can definitely try this by hand. It's just going to give you a little bit of a workout. Let's mix this. Perfect. So let's just scrape down the sides. I like to scrape down the sides in the middle of my process just to make sure, especially all the butter, is mixed quite well into your batter. There we go. So we just scrape down the sides. I'm just going to mix it again for about 20 to 30 seconds. So let me move that, and you can see your batter is turning into a nice pale color. That means your butter has been mixed in very well. You don't want to over mix, as I said, so don't walk away from your stand mixer at this point. It is literally just about a minute of mixing in total. So don't leave it and go and do something else, because if you over mix your batter, that will create problems with your baking as well. Right, so just scrape down the sides again, and by this point you should see a nice smooth batter. Definitely no solid pieces of butter, and we're now just going to add a bit of liquid to our recipe. So for my vanilla cupcakes, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of a good quality vanilla bean extract. Straight into the bowl, and just shy of 2 tablespoons of full fat milk. That's 1, and just shy of 2. And we're going to mix this for 10-15 seconds, just until you see it's nicely incorporated. There we go, that is a beautiful batter. Scrape down the sides, just make sure everything is nicely mixed in. And just get all the batter off your whisk attachment as well, because this recipe with my muffin cupcake cases gives you exactly 12, so you definitely want to use every drop of the batter. Don't waste any, because it is exactly 12 cupcakes coming out of this recipe. There we go. So next we are on to our muffin pan with 12 holes. We've got our muffin cupcake cases in there, and I'm simply going to use some spoons to spoon this into my cupcake cases. Once you've done this a lot, which I do, you know how much roughly to put in a cupcake case. That much. I use quite big spoons. It's like dishing up spoons really, rather than dessert spoons. But I just drop a blob of butter straight into the cupcake case. Some people prefer to use like an ice cream scoop or something similar, which a lot of cake makers use for cupcakes, to ensure that you put in exactly the same amount of batter into every single cupcake case. But spoons work just as good. So if you don't have an ice cream scoop or a cupcake measuring scoop, don't rush out to buy one. Your spoons will work just as well. Last one, you might just have to give your bowl a scrape. There we go. So you can see that is 12 cupcakes. Now I've got a tiny bit left in my bowl, and I just go around and just top up any of my cases where I didn't quite have enough. You don't have to flatten out your batter. That will happen automatically in the oven, so it can stay in a little heap like we've spooned it in. Don't worry about flattening it out. I like to use every single bit of batter I've got, because who doesn't like cake? We don't want to waste anything, do we? Right, now this is the tricky bit. This is going into my oven, and I've got a range cooker oven with various settings and fan assisted settings as well. Now I have played around a lot in my oven, and I'm baking at 150 degrees Celsius fan assisted for 22 minutes. If you've got a conventional oven or more traditional oven, certainly if you don't have a fan assisted oven, you might want to bake at about 160, 170 degrees Celsius for between 20 to 22 minutes until you can put a skewer into the middle of your cupcake and it comes out clean. So I'm going to pop this in the oven at 150 degrees Celsius, fan assisted in my oven, 22 minutes, and we'll see how they come out. Stay right there. Right, we've got our cupcakes out of the oven. They were in for 22 minutes. I just want to show you, if you stick in a little skewer in one of them, it comes out clean. That's how you test for your cupcakes to be done. So they are all done, they're nice and even. You can actually see, let me show you this interesting fact for my oven. That row was at the back of my oven, and you can see it's just slightly more domed than the others. And that is because the back of my oven is hotter. So keep that in mind. Going back to our thermometer conversation, keep the temperature of your oven in mind when you make any type of cake. It is quite an interesting science, to be honest. But these are perfect vanilla cupcakes. We're going to pop them out on a cooling rack, and they can just cool down for half an hour to an hour, and you can decorate them. I usually bake my cupcakes on the same day than I decorate them, because with cupcakes I do find fresh is definitely better. Now the way to adjust this recipe, if you want to, you can, for example, if you want caramel cupcakes, you can replace half the sugar in this recipe with some soft brown sugar, and that will give you a little caramel taste to your sponge. You can, for lemon, you can replace half the milk with lemon juice and add the zest of 1 lemon to the mix, and that will give you lemon cupcakes. You can also do raspberry ripple by adding, say, 1/4 cup of fine freeze-dried raspberries to the mix, and maybe a little bit of pink food coloring just to turn the sponge pink, and that will give you raspberry cupcakes. So it's a really flexible, versatile recipe, and you can use this as a base for a lot of different flavors. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Happy baking. Send me some pictures of your cupcakes, and if you've got any questions, do let me know. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to hit like, and if you would like to see more from me in the future, please hit subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.